Before Oprah Winfrey became one of the most powerful women in media. Before the fame. Before the millions. Before the world knew her name. She was a little girl growing up in deep poverty, carrying pain that most people would never survive. And what makes her story unforgettable is that the same struggles that could have destroyed her became the reason she rose. This is the early struggle of Oprah Winfrey. And how pain became power. Section 1, Poverty and a Hard Childhood. Oprah Winfrey was born in 1954 in rural Mississippi, into extreme poverty. Her early years were far from the glamorous life people imagine today. She was raised for a time by her grandmother, in conditions so difficult that even basic necessities were limited. This was not a life of comfort. This was survival. But even in those harsh conditions, something unusual stood out. Oprah loved words. She loved speaking. She loved reading. While other children were simply trying to get through the day, Oprah was already developing the voice that would one day change her life. That's the first lesson of her story. Sometimes your gift shows up long before your breakthrough does. Section 2, Trauma that could have destroyed her. As a child, Oprah's life became even more painful. When she moved to live with her mother in Milwaukee, her world became unstable. She later spoke publicly about enduring abuse from people who should have protected her. That kind of trauma can break a person from the inside. It can steal confidence. It can create shame. It can make someone believe their future is already ruined. And for many people, that would have been the end of the story. But for Oprah, it wasn't. This part of her life is important because it reminds us of something powerful. Your wounds may shape your story, but they do not have to define your ending. Section 3, Her Lowest Point. By her teenage years, Oprah's life had spiraled into chaos. She was emotionally overwhelmed, deeply wounded, and heading in a dangerous direction. This was the kind of season where many people disappear into their pain forever. Everything around her suggested failure. Everything around her suggested that she would become another tragic story. And this is where most people watching would probably give up. Because when life hits you that early, it's easy to believe success belongs to other people. But Oprah's story was about to change. Not because life suddenly became easy, but because one key shift entered her life. Structure. Discipline. Direction. Section 4, The Turning Point, Her Father. Oprah was sent to live with her father in Nashville. And that decision changed everything. Her father brought something her life had been missing for years. Rules, expectations, accountability, and belief. He pushed education. He demanded discipline. He expected excellence. And for a young girl who had been surrounded by instability, that structure became a lifeline. This is one of the most important parts of Oprah's success story. She didn't rise because motivation magically appeared. She rose because someone helped create an environment where growth was possible. She began to focus on school. She became more confident in public speaking. And her natural communication skills started to shine. Soon, it became clear that Oprah wasn't just a survivor. She had something special. A voice. Presence. Emotional intelligence. Connection. And that would soon open the first real door of opportunity. Section 5, Early Career Struggles and Rejection. Oprah entered media at a very young age. She earned a broadcasting opportunity while still young, and later became a local TV news anchor. On paper, that sounds like success. But in reality, it wasn't smooth. She struggled in traditional news. Why? Because the style of cold, distant reporting didn't fit who she was. Oprah was emotional, human, warm, deeply connected to people. And at first, that looked like a weakness. In fact, early in her career, she was criticized for being too emotionally involved. In a world that wanted polished distance, Oprah brought real feeling. And that's what makes this part of her story so powerful. The thing that looked like her weakness was actually her future superpower. That's a lesson every creator needs to hear. Sometimes what makes you different is exactly what will make you unforgettable. Section 6, The Breakthrough. Instead of forcing herself to fit into a format that didn't match her personality, Oprah found the right lane. She moved into daytime talk television. And everything changed. Once she was allowed to be herself, open, relatable, emotional, honest, audiences connected instantly. People didn't just watch Oprah. They felt understood by her. That connection became her advantage. And eventually, it became an empire. From poverty to pain to rejection to one of the most influential women in the world. Not because life was fair. Not because the road was easy. But because she turned struggle into strength. Oprah Winfrey's early life proves something most people forget. Your beginning is not your destiny. You can come from pain. And still build power. You can be rejected. And still become respected. You can feel broken. And still become unforgettable. And maybe that's why Oprah's story still hits so hard today. Because it's not just about becoming famous. It's about refusing to let your past make the final decision about your future. So the next time life makes you feel behind, remember this. The world almost lost Oprah before it ever knew her name. If this story inspired you, comment below. Pain can become power. And subscribe for more success story breakdowns that remind you. Greatness often begins in struggle.